Welcome to this week's video. We're going to cover different things like tips and tricks that can carry you through a fat loss phase. Dieting is super hard work, and anyone who's tried it before would know. There's lots of tips and tricks that you can implement to make it easier and more enjoyable, or as enjoyable as it can be. So these are things that my clients do, that I did when I prepped or diet. And the main thing that you want to think about here is that when you are dieting, you have to have a lifestyle that you sort of enjoy. Like, dieting is not fun. Nobody likes to diet. We like to just eat whatever we want and just hope for the best. But if we actually do want to lose weight, the diet process has to be something that we are able to lean into and enjoy to a degree. Otherwise, we're not going to succeed and we're not going to stick with it. So I've got 13 things to share, so stick around if you want to learn more about that. The first one is egg whites. This is really about volume. So you can have lots and lots of egg whites for not very many calories, and you can make lots of things with them. So pretty much any egg-based meal you can have. So like omelets, scramble, protein pancakes, French toast, all that kind of thing. Instead of using whole eggs, you can just use egg whites. So the yolk in an egg is about 50 calories and it is fat, but you can have the equivalent amount of egg white for about 20 calories. Just note that egg whites are quite rubbery in texture when you eat them just on their own, because it's the yolk that brings that creamy consistency. But they still work. If you're gonna have something like an egg white omelet, you'll just have to note that you would need to have a little bit of sauce on it. So we'll get to the sauces in a little bit. So I personally, when I diet, use egg whites in oats because it makes it really thick and fluffy and more filling. I had pancakes where I would just have one whole egg and then 150 grams of egg whites. So you can do things like that. And it just means you're getting way more pancake for way less calories. And also my favorite go-to when I did my competition prep was an egg white based pizza. So it was super high protein, super low fat, super low carb, and it tastes like a normal pizza. So yeah, lots of cool things like that. So you can do lots of cool things with egg whites. That is my first tip. Now, these are the egg whites that I use. So you get them from Woolworths, got a little bodybuilder on the front, and that will last you like 10 days or so because it's a kilo. The second one is protein custard. So this is just basically a casein protein, which is quite a thick consistency. And there's heaps and heaps of different brands. The ones that are most popular with my clientele are Muscle Nation, and my favorite is Red Dragon Nutritionals. I really like the vanilla slice flavor, but you can make like smoothies and smoothie bowls and they thicken up heaps, or you can just have them as like a dessert, or I used to mix it up and top it on my oats, or have it with muesli or berries or something like that. You can also have it hot or you can have it cold. So with the smoothie bowls, or the smoothies, usually you have to have a lot of banana or a lot of acai or a lot of avocado and to make them really thick. So it actually ends up being a really high calorie treat that you cannot have when you're dieting. So if you have the protein custard instead of a normal whey protein, the actual custard itself will thicken the entire thing up. So for like 250 calories, you've got a super high protein, low carb, low fat smoothie bowl. Delicious. The third one is an air fryer. So I held off on getting an air fryer for ages until I was super deep into my diet and I just could not stand eating the same food all the time. And all I pretty much used it for was potato chips. So not only do you want to sort of change the foods that you're eating when you're dieting and change the sauces you're using and the flavors, it's also really good to change the way that you cook things, because all of a sudden everything's changed. Like for a potato, for example, you could have baked potato, you can have mashed potato, or you could have it like a chip. And it does make a huge difference when you're dieting, because the novelty of eating chips is always really great. And all you have to do to make those is like chop your potato. I use sweet potato mostly. Swap your potato or sweet potato into strips. You spray it with a bit of light olive oil, and you generally cook it on really high, like 200 degrees Celsius for about 12 minutes, and they'll come out super crispy. That's for a single serve. So I had that literally every day while I was dieting, and I never got bored. I just changed the way I cut them. I changed the toppings I would put on there. I changed how crunchy they were. And sometimes I had them with this light sour cream and light sweet chili sauce. So yeah, an air fryer. You can do lots of other things in there too, by the way, but I just like the chips. And then we have zucchini. So that is one of these super versatile vegetables. It is 95% water, but it's very voluminous when you cook it up, and you can't taste it. So it's like the egg whites. You can't really taste it, but it takes up a lot of space and there's not very many calories. I made things like pumpkin zucchini fritters. I put zucchini in my oats for ages. That's called zoats. Actually, at one point I was having eggs and zucchini in my oats because I only had such a little bit of oatmeal, and so I was able to make it like a huge bowl without all the extra calories. And then you can have them like zoodles. So you can make like spaghetti bolognese and you just have zucchini noodles instead of pasta if you can't fit them into your macros. And then we have low calorie sauces. So there are lots and lots of low calorie sauces out there. They don't taste amazing when you're not dieting. So they can sometimes take a little while to adjust to. So I always try and get people to keep in normal sauces until you get to this caloric point where you actually can't have them anymore. And then you want to move on to low calorie. So you can have like 99% fat-free dressings, and they also usually don't have any sugar in them. You can get like French and balsamic like that. You can get light mayo, you can get light aioli, you can get light Caesar dressing. And then they've got this brand called Cacao Fit, which is purely really for the fitness community. And they've got like chocolate sauces, salad dressings, tomato sauce, barbecue sauce, all sorts of flavors. I was having heaps of those on mine. So keep in mind, like when you diet, and the further down the diet you get, the closer you get to being where you want to be, usually your taste buds have changed so much that you'll do anything for any flavor. So you might just have plain turkey breast and a bit of Cacao Fit barbecue sauce and you're gonna be in heaven. So you don't actually need that much when you're dieting to make you happy. You know, it's just finding those favorite sauces and finding the mixes that you like and then going from there. Then my sixth principle is to follow flexible dieting. So back in the day, we used to do these diets, which was like chicken and broccoli and rice and maybe some oats and an apple and like maybe some beef. So it wasn't very adventurous. There wasn't really any different foods in there. And because the bodybuilding community, we're going back like 10 plus years, was the best place for people to go when they realized they didn't want to just get smaller, but they also wanted to look toned and muscular, we just kind of gave out those same diets that we were doing. And we didn't mind living like that, but the general population doesn't necessarily resonate with a diet like that because it's very restrictive and you can't live like that. It's also very boring. You know, so at first I used to hand out those kinds of diets, but after like 2 clients, I realized this is not going to work. I need way more variety, you know, so that's when I went down the whole much more wholesome meal plan, which is much healthier for you in the long term to get a variety of foods. And then from there, we moved on to flexible dieting. So then that completely flips it on its head so that the client now has the power to choose any food they want within their guidelines. It just takes a little bit more time and preparation as far as the putting it all together is concerned. But it just means if you want to eat protein pancakes for breakfast one day and then an omelette and then oats and muesli or granola or whatever you want to do, as long as it fits in your macros or your calorie targets, you can still lose weight and create the body that you want. So that's flexible dieting. And I totally recommend you check that out if you have not already. Then we have just a sneaky exercise tip, which is to save your television watching for cardio. So if you're doing like 4 40-minute cardio sessions a week, just find a series on Netflix or Stan or whatever, or a movie, and just watch it while you do cardio, but don't watch it at home. So that's what I was doing. So I got to the point with mine, because I just do cardio every morning, that I just would start a series and that was like 40 minutes per episode. And then I would just basically jump on the treadmill and I couldn't wait. So like I'd get up and I couldn't wait to watch the show. So, and I'd always make sure I had a show that I was actually excited for, because then the cardio just went so quick. It was awesome. Like back in the day, we didn't have any of those things. So when we had to do cardio, it'd be like building yourself up, right? Especially if you're a bit of a busy brain person like I used to be. And you used to like try and bribe people and try and like rope people in to walk with you while you're on the treadmill, because it's so painful to walk there while you're really hungry on your own with no entertainment. But then now you have this magical thing called the iPhone or the iPad, and you can just watch anything you want. So I didn't even hate my cardio last time. I actually enjoyed it, using it for TV time. So like, yeah, I'm moving my body, but I'm also kind of getting some mental downtime. So that is my cardio tip. Then we have sugar-free maple syrup. This can go on everything. Like it can go on your oats, it can go on protein pancakes, it can go on French toast, it can go in smoothies to make them sweeter. Super delicious, tastes pretty much like the real thing. Again, like I said, your taste buds change when you diet, so you'll actually really love it. And like I said, it goes on everything. Then we have number 9, which is a bit random, but it is Natvia brown sugar. It is so good. It goes in everything. I would like sprinkle it on my oats. I would mix it with a bit of cacao powder and boiling water and some milk and make a hot chocolate. I'll put it in tea. Like it literally kind of tastes like this caramelized sugar, but it's from Mother Nature. It does not disturb your gut bacteria. It doesn't create sugar cravings, and it doesn't spike your blood sugar like lots of artificial sweeteners do. So that's an amazing choice. They also have just a plain white one that you can use, but I really love the brown one. You get it from Woolworths. So this is what the brown sugar one looks like. It's like kind of this, maybe you can see, golden brown texture. And then number 10 is to have lots and lots of veggies and salads. So you can create super, super huge meals with lots of veggies, assuming that you can digest them. And the more green veggies you have, the lower the calories are likely going to be. But just also note that if you are a normal human being on a fat loss phase who just wants to fill out her meal, you don't have to have green vegetables. You can literally have any vegetable you like. Like there's no vegetable off limits apart from like potatoes and corn and peas, because these aren't ideal as far as the carb content is concerned, and pumpkin. But you can have almost any vegetable, just enjoy them, and you'll still get your fat loss results. And if you do them on the fry pan or in the oven, they end up being crispier and sweeter and they taste better. And then we have number 11, which is to eat rice cakes. So you can have the equivalent of like a cup of rice. You could have 8 rice cakes. So if you're feeling like you need to eat for longer because you're so hungry, just eat lots and lots of rice cakes. They're all fluffed up. There's lots of air in there. You can munch on them for ages. I would have them with tuna. I would put my protein custard on them. I would have nut butter on them, cream cheese with a bit of cinnamon, which then turned into light cream cheese with cinnamon as I started to get leaner. Or you can just have like your meat and your veg, and then you can have a couple of rice cakes after for your carbs. So you kind of get to a point in a diet sometimes where you're only really able to have like 10 grams of carbs, and then you don't want to have 2 tablespoons of rice. You know, it's more exciting to have 2 rice cakes because takes longer to eat them and they're crunchy. Then we have popcorn. So I recommend organic popcorn. I would never get inorganic corn. It's not very good for you, not very good for your gut, but you can buy that at any health food shop and you can kind of pop it yourself. I used to mix Himalayan salt, that Natvia brown sugar, and some paprika and some cinnamon, and it was amazing. So you can have this whole huge bowl for like 30 grams of carbs. So again, instead of like a cup of rice, you might have like 5 or 6 cups of popcorn. So pretty much any food that has lots of volume and quite low calories is awesome for a dieting process. These are my popcorn kernels that I bought online. I've had these for like 2 years. So they last you forever, and you just make them in a pot, super easy. And then lastly, we have cacao powder. So this is just because everyone is a chocolate lover. So if you get your hands on really good cacao powder, I will pop the one that I use up on the screen because I've tried all of them, trust me. And this one is the most like chocolatey. It's really rich and kind of like, I don't know, it's so good. It's not dry. A lot of them are dry and a bit bitter. This one's not bitter. It's like really rich. And if you mix that with the Natvia, so you can have a teaspoon of that and a teaspoon of the Natvia, it's about equivalent. And if you put it through your oats end up being really chocolatey. Or you could put it in a smoothie, or you could put it in hot water with a little bit of milk, and then that becomes hot chocolate. It's very yummy, super low calorie, keeps the chocolate cravings at bay. I had it like every single day, probably the whole time I prepped, and I have it all the time now because it's so good. This is one of the custards that I used to have quite a lot of. It is actually a plant one and it's chocolate. It's not the most delicious, but it does have a bit of a chocolatey flavor and it thickens up really nice. So I used to put that on my oats sometimes. So those are the 13 things that came to mind today. There's a couple of other honorable mentions, which include like sugar-free ice blocks, Yum Natural peanut butter, super sweet, super delicious. You just mix water in, so it ends up being like peanut butter, but low calorie. Specifically that brand because it's really sweet and really delicious. Avalanche hot drinks, like they've got these like caramelized white chocolate and salted caramel flavor. Super, super delicious. So this is an example of the Avalanche. I haven't had them for a while, still had them for months, but they come in these little sachets and yeah, you just mix it in with hot water. You don't actually need any milk. And these are really sweet. You can almost use half a sachet when you're dieting, so they'll last for ages. It's not so good for your skin and your gut if your digestive system isn't amazing. So just have them sparingly, like when you need them. Then you've got sugar-free drinks, like you could have a Pepsi Max or something like that if you really need it, but not every day. Use spray oil on things and a bit of salt to bring flavor out. And yeah, just remember to put in like the occasional something that you're craving. Like I said, like I love pizza. I love pizza so much. So I was always having the egg white pizza. And even now I still only make egg white pizza because I don't want to have all that, you know, flour and carb coma after. You know, but there's heaps of recipes you can make, like high protein brownies or cakes, or you can just have the real deal if they fit in your macros, but just keep them in sparingly and just make sure that the rest of your diet are meals that you're really enjoying. Then we have like low-cal jelly. So these are the flavors that I love the most. Got these from a health food store. You just make them up and you can have like a quarter of it, like every night. You don't have to have the whole thing. It's not good to put these things in your belly all the time. So it's got this ingredient called carrageenan, and that can be gut damaging for some people. So just little amounts of these things, you don't want to live on them. And that is going to make your fat loss way easier, especially if you're aiming for a super, super lean physique. You get to that point where you're not really eating anything and it just tastes like a drop of tomato sauce to make your taste buds explode. So yeah, those are my top tips to help your fat loss process become tastier and easier. If you have any suggestions yourself, throw them in the comments below. And if not, that is all, and I'll see you next week. Bye.